Last night, President Donald Trump delivered his State of the Union address before a joint session of Congress, presenting what he described as a nation experiencing renewal and strength. The speech, lasting more than 2 hours, was marked by frequent applause from Republican lawmakers and visible resistance from many Democrats, underscoring the deep partisan divide that defines Washington today. From the outset, the president framed his remarks around a central theme, that the United States has entered what he called a golden age. He argued that the country is economically stronger, militarily more secure, and internationally more respected than in recent years. Supporters within the chamber responded with standing ovations, while Democratic members largely remained seated during key policy declarations. Economic policy formed the backbone of the address. The president cited job growth figures, expanded domestic energy production, and reduced regulatory burdens as evidence of progress. He highlighted gains in manufacturing and construction, sectors that often symbolize industrial revival. According to federal labor statistics, unemployment rates remain relatively low compared to historical averages. However, economists caution that labor force participation and wage growth must be evaluated alongside inflation trends to determine overall household well-being. Inflation remains one of the most pressing economic concerns. Although price increases have moderated from earlier peaks, many Americans continue to face elevated housing, food, and healthcare costs. The president acknowledged cost of living pressures but attributed them to global disruptions and prior policy decisions, asserting that current strategies are stabilizing prices over time. Housing affordability was specifically addressed as a pillar of the American dream. The president argued that deregulation and increased domestic production would reduce construction costs and encourage development. Critics note that housing shortages are also shaped by local zoning policies and market constraints beyond federal control. Energy independence was emphasized as both an economic and national security priority. The administration maintains that high domestic oil and gas output strengthens geopolitical leverage and stabilizes consumer fuel prices. Analysts point out that global market forces, including international production agreements and geopolitical tensions, continue to influence energy costs. Trade policy was referenced as a tool for protecting American workers. The president reiterated concerns about unfair trade practices and suggested that tariffs and renegotiated agreements have strengthened domestic industry. Economists remain divided over the long-term impact of tariffs, noting that while some industries benefit, others face higher production costs. Immigration and border security represented a major portion of the speech. The president described the southern border as central to national sovereignty and public safety. He called for expanded physical barriers, increased enforcement personnel, and stricter asylum processing standards. According to Customs and Border Protection data, border encounters have fluctuated significantly in recent years, reflecting shifting migration patterns influenced by economic instability, political unrest, and regional crises. The president linked immigration enforcement to drug trafficking concerns, particularly the fentanyl crisis. Federal data confirms that fentanyl overdoses have significantly impacted public health nationwide. Law enforcement agencies report increased seizures at ports of entry, though experts note that the opioid crisis involves complex domestic and international supply chains. Throughout the immigration section, Republican lawmakers frequently applauded enforcement proposals. Democratic members remained largely seated, reflecting policy disagreements over the balance between border control and humanitarian protections. Public opinion surveys suggest that many Americans support stronger border security while also favoring pathways to legal status for long-term undocumented residents. Crime policy more broadly was framed as a law and order priority. The president cited violent crime statistics in certain regions and advocated expanded federal support for police departments. National crime trends vary by locality and category, and experts caution against broad generalizations. Funding levels and criminal justice reform remain active areas of congressional debate. The speech also included recognition of individuals seated in the gallery, a long-standing State of the Union tradition. Military service members, community leaders, and families affected by tragedy were acknowledged. Such recognitions personalize policy themes and connect national discussions to individual stories of service and sacrifice. At moments, the president expressed frustration toward lawmakers who did not stand or applaud. This exchange highlighted the increasingly performative nature of modern State of the Union addresses, where visual reactions inside the chamber often carry as much symbolic weight as policy substance. Foreign policy was addressed with an emphasis on deterrence and strength. The president asserted that American military preparedness and diplomatic posture have restored global respect. Ongoing international tensions were referenced without announcing new military commitments. Defense spending continues to play a dual role as both a security imperative and an economic driver in multiple states. Federal debt and fiscal sustainability were not deeply explored in detail, though rising interest payments remain a long-term concern. The United States continues to operate with significant budget deficits. Bipartisan debates over taxation and entitlement reform remain unresolved. As the address concluded, the president reiterated his central claim that the nation is not in decline but resurgence. Whether voters embrace that framing may depend less on rhetorical declarations and more on individual economic experiences in the months ahead. Political analysts view the speech not only as a constitutional obligation, but as a strategic communication event. In an election cycle environment, the State of the Union often serves as both a policy outline and a campaign message. The sharp partisan reactions inside the chamber mirrored broader national divisions. Public reaction outside Washington was predictably split. Supporters praised the address as strong and assertive. Critics described it as combative and lacking bipartisan outreach. Independent voters, who often determine electoral outcomes, will likely weigh economic performance and personal financial stability as key evaluation metrics. The true impact of the speech will be measured not in applause, but in legislative progress and economic data. Inflation trends, wage growth, housing accessibility, border management outcomes, and global stability will shape how this address is remembered. In the months ahead, Congress will face decisions on funding priorities, immigration reform proposals, and fiscal policy adjustments. The president's agenda now enters the legislative arena, where political negotiation and compromise determine tangible outcomes. The State of the Union remains one of the most symbolically powerful moments in American governance. It reflects both the authority of the presidency and the division of democratic debate. Last night's address reinforced a central reality of the current political era, that policy discussions are inseparable from partisan identity. Ultimately, the direction of the nation will depend not only on presidential declarations, but on measurable results across households, businesses, and communities nationwide.